Hello everybody, welcome to Radio Mythoverse for September the 1st, 2021. Good evening everyone, I'm Dan, father, provider, pa, renaissance man in training. It is September, month 9. Fall is a few weeks away. Hopefully the weather starts to cool off soon. Not holding my breath here in Florida, but should get maybe at least a reasonable amount of it towards the end of the year. Looking forward to that. Be a nice break. So, welcome to the show. What have we gotten done recently here at the Mythoverse? Well, quite a bit actually. Promised a coloring book. We got that done. In fact, I just received the print copy of it right now. Let me go ahead and share that with you. So this has just been printed. Got a whole batch of them in. It's going out to the Patreon first, and once everyone gets their copy of this, we will be making it available on the store. It's absolutely beautiful. I brought in this fantastic artist named Jessica DeLuz, and our own Lenore King and Leandro Panganiban also contributed to it. And it's full of exquisite black and white line art that you can color. It's challenging enough for adults, but fun enough for kids. There's some mazes and crossword puzzles and other such fun stuff that you can do. And I'm looking forward to getting everyone's reactions as far as that is concerned. So, in addition to that, the Changeling number 2 campaign was successfully funded, and production is moving right along. We should have that out to backers at the time we promised, and it's gonna have a nice bonus comic in there too. So lots of great stuff coming up for Mythoverse fans. In addition to the coloring book, I'd like to say that we got the front cover for Adobe Kroger number 3 colored. Brought on Steve Cannon from the Jack Irons team to do that for us, and as you can see here on the screen, absolutely bellissimo. Just nailed it. Here we have Smoot doing something catastrophically powerful on the front cover. What's she doing? Well, just wait and see. You'll have a chance to check that all out in Adobe Kroger Dame Commander issue number 3. And I'm going to probably do something pretty cool with that issue that we hadn't done with any of our previous issues. So stay tuned for that. I'll give you those details. Also, production on Triple Crown proceeds apace. Got some nice artwork from there, and the print version of that should be in my hands tomorrow, I'm thinking. And once again, that'll go out to patrons first, and then it'll be available on the store. So this will include the chapter 1 and the bonus comic, as well as some extra pages in the back there. Give you a lot to sink your teeth into. So lots of exciting stuff going on in the Mythoverse, and we're here to talk about yet another exciting thing tonight. And I have with me a panel of amazing creators. You might know them if you were with us last Halloween. We produced our very first comic anthology set in the Mythoverse, Hallowed Harvest Volume 1. And if you're asking me why I'm bringing this up, well, it's actually quite simple. Remember I said it's September. That means fall's on the way, and that means October is right around the corner, and that means Halloween is right around the corner, and that means, that's right, it's time for Hallowed Harvest Volume 2. And why do I say it's time for Hallowed Harvest Volume 2? Well, it's because we're about to launch a Kickstarter campaign tonight here live on stream for Volume 2 of Hallowed Harvest, and all of our creators are here to talk about that. So I have here with me, I have James Stern, I have Nebel, and I have Ronan Streamkiller, also known as Dylan Streamkiller. Anyway.
I am the Dream Killer.
Yeah, he earned that moniker because some of the bonus art that he did for our other campaigns, when we displayed it on stream, each time we did so, the stream was taken down. But anyway, enough of that. Let's talk about the present day, and we got everyone here to talk about Hallowed Harvest Volume 2. So, before we start talking about it, the first thing I have to do is, of course, officially launch the campaign. So, I will do that now while I say hi to everybody. So, James, how's it going? This whole thing was your idea initially, if I recall correctly. The apocryphal story was you came up with the idea when you were drunk, but that's not necessarily true. It was just a late night idea, right?
It's slightly true. It's more drunk on not sleep than drunk on alcohol. There was a small amount of whiskey involved. I'd been up all night watching scary movies. Like, I watched Hellraiser and Halloween 2, the original, and I finished Halloween 2 and I was like, Halloween's coming up. Mythverse Comics needs some Halloween content. Let's see what we can do. And so I posted in the Discord, hey guys, let's do a thing. And people jumped on board, which was fun.
Yeah, and I love the idea, and so I got on board with that too, and we put together a campaign, and it was a nice hefty volume full of all kinds of stories with all kinds of genres and art styles, and including a prose entry. Unfortunately, Salem doesn't look like he's here with us to talk about that, but I really did enjoy that, and he is returning for Volume 2. Yeah. So,
well, I think Salem said he'll be here in a little bit.
Okay, well that's
He's
good.
Just finishing up some schoolwork.
I definitely want him to talk about what he's doing for us this year. So, without any further ado, I'm going to go ahead and launch the campaign now.
Yes.
And, okay. And now I have a live link, which I will drop in the chat right now.
And I'm going to take that and post it in the Mythoverse Discord as well.
Excellent. So there you go, folks. Dominic Powell's here with us, and Neostar is here and does his thing. And it's always a delight to see Neostar with us. He's one of my favorite guys that joins us on the stream. He's always fun and he's always engaging, and he's got a lot of cool ideas. So glad to have you, Neo. I'm glad to have you, Dominic.
Okay, so I just posted a gif of like Light from Death Note intensely writing in a Death Note, and it said me killing Sasha with a wet t-shirt in the coloring book.
Yeah. Well, what else is due anyway? So, yeah, we'll talk about the coloring book a little bit later. I just wanted to go over that real quick, but for now, the name of the game is Hallowed Harvest. So let me bring that campaign up on screen here, and we'll start talking about it while everyone else gets a chance to check out the link.
There we go.
All right.
In the Discord.
Oh, awesome. So we got a backer. We're at $30.
Oh, yes. Very good, Alabaster.
Alabaster is our resident first. I don't think he's ever not been first. But anyway, so here is the campaign. Let me go ahead and let me close that guy there. Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do real quick before we do anything else is simply play the promo video. That's the best way to do it. So here we go.
And so it is that in the month preceding that harvest and Sabbath, the Shade, that malignant keeper of lore, ventures into the world of man to collect new tales. Failing to find any of merit, he twists the bonds of fate to create his own, leaving gourds carved with grotesque images of the unfolded events. Nicholas Stant, Unusual Folklore.
And there we have it. Okay, we got Madison in the chat saying this is badass. I absolutely agree. It is badass. And welcome to the stream. So we got $60 now, 2 backers. Okay, so there you have it. There is the summary for Hallowed Harvest Volume 2. Now, we had our own Lenore King, an excellent voiceover artist, provide the narration for that video. And in it, she talks about the shade. Now, Mr. James, would you mind explaining to us what she means by all that?
Yes, so I don't want to explain too much of how it works, but the Samhain Shade, to be brief, is originally just the kind of mascot for Hallowed Harvest. It's the entity that appears on the cover of the first volume. And I thought, like, Neville, you're the one who did the original design. Did I, like, specify anything to you, or did you just kind of come up with it?
I just kind of drew it at random. I just scribbled out what came to my mind, and that's what came out.
Yeah, so...
And then I gave it a name because I thought it sounded cool.
Yeah, so originally it was just Neville kind of scribbled the design and gave it a name. But after the first issue, I think Neville and I were talking, and we determined it might be fun to give it a little bit more character than just a mascot for Hallowed Harvest. And so we got to work discussing what it is within the context of the Mythoverse. And basically, you could call it the spirit of Halloween lore. It lives to collect spooky stories, or stories from the Halloween season. What happens if you don't give it a story is explained in the narration.
Yeah, so you want to make sure you give him a story. Otherwise, he might like force you to act out the story that he wants, or he might bend reality to make the story he wants happen, I guess I should say.
Yeah, he'll mess your day up.
Yeah, so keep this guy entertained. You know, always have a story in your back pocket around the Halloween season, and make sure you share it so that he is satisfied and will not, like you said, mess up your day.
What was that joke we had about
Wow.
the Samhain Shade and Sasha?
No, we're not doing anything
Not
with
right
that.
now.
Nope, not tonight, Dylan.
That's for later.
Yeah, we'll worry about that on a different stream. Right now, let's talk about Hallowed Harvest
Okay.
Volume 2. And Neostar says, backed. Thank you very much, Neostar. Madison says, impressed. Thank you. I am too. The fact that this more or less happened organically out of creative folks in our community wanting to tell some cool stories is probably my favorite part about it. I didn't ask for it. It just sort of happened, and I was really happy that it did
I
happen.
didn't ask
So,
for this.
no, in other words, I didn't say, hey guys, I want you all to make Halloween stories. It was like, hey guys, do you want to make Halloween stories? And everyone's like, yeah, that sounds like fun. So the end result was fantastic because it was just everyone doing whatever they wanted. And they all had their own voice, their own style, and it just came together so great. I loved it. So like James said, the Samhain Shade is the mascot for Hallowed Harvest, and he appears once again on the cover for Volume 2. And these symbols here on the cover, these denote the different stories. And on the cover to the first volume, we did the same thing, where he was surrounded by levitating jack-o'-lanterns that were carved with patterns that were references to each of the stories. So that's a pretty neat stylistic touch, and we've continued that on the cover for Volume 2 here. And now, while this character was designed by Neville, this particular version on this cover was drawn by Dylan. Am I right?
Yep.
Nice. Yeah, Dylan's one of our top artists for sure. So anyway, let's go over the campaign real quick. Let's go over the details before we start talking more about each individual story. So what we have here, we have a campaign for Volume 2, and we're going to offer both Volume 1 and Volume 2 in various iterations. And this year we have a special treat that was not available last year. I'll just scroll all the way down here and talk about that very quickly. This year we have 2 different covers being offered for Volume 2. And the standard cover is the one with a Samhain shade on it, right here, and that we've already seen it. And we have an alternate cover here, which is a wonderfully gruesome zombified version of Adobe Kroger Dame Commander #1's cover. So we have Adobe zombified, and the minions of the cult leader are using makeshift weapons to blow her to smithereens. So this is the variant cover for Hallowed Harvest Volume 2, and we've made it available as an either or, like you can choose one cover or the other, or if you want to collect both of them, you can do that too. We have tiers for that. On top of that, just as in last year's campaign, if this is your first time checking out the Mythoverse, we wanted to give everyone an opportunity to dive all the way in. So in addition to being able to order Hallowed Harvest Volume 1 and Volume 2, we're also making available every other book we've ever made, both digitally and in print, if you're interested. And we'll go over all of that one at a time. So I'm going to go ahead and go all the way to the top here, to the top tier, and go over them one at a time. So we have the standard Pledge Without a Reward tier up here on top. And that's if you really like to support us, but that's all. You can go ahead and toss us some change for our tip jar, and we will thank you profusely for that. Obviously, we'll never turn that down, but I would much prefer that you enjoy our work. So if you're interested in supporting us, check out one of the tiers where you can pick something up. So we have that tip jar. We have the $1 or more if you just want to help out for the Mythoverse, and we'll get a personalized chibi thank you image in your email box. It'll be the 3 Mythoverse main girls saying thank you so-and-so, and we'll send that off to you if you're interested for $1. And even that little amount of support really means a lot to us. So if that's what you're able to support us with, if that's how much you're able to join us for, we will absolutely thank you for that. So moving on, pledge $5 or more. This is a nice entry level tier. This is All Hallows Digital. So just like last year, you'll get the digital version of Hallowed Harvest Volume 2, and we will also throw in the digital of Hallowed Harvest Volume 1. So if you didn't get a chance to back us last year and you just want to read everything that the Hallowed Harvest team has put out, this is a great tier for you. You'll get the digital versions as soon as the campaign completes, and you could read all the stories. And there's over 100 pages of stories between the 2 volumes. So a lot of value for $5. Great art, great writing, and you're going to absolutely love it. Moving on to the $10 tier. Now this is the digital Mythoverse catch-up pack. So if you're brand new to our comic line, to the Mythoverse comics brand, and you want to see everything that we've done, for $10 you'll get Hallowed Harvest Volume 1 and Volume 2, and a digital version of everything we've ever done. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 volumes of digital comics, including Hallowed Harvest Volume 1 and Volume 2, and that is a ridiculous amount of stuff to read. It's over 350 pages. And there's action, there's slice of life, there's mystery, there's gruesome thrillers and horror, everything you could want. It's all there, and for $10 you can read everything. Okay, so let's move on to $25 or more. This is the All Hallows print tier. So if you want to hold Hallowed Harvest Volume 2 in your hand, this is the tier for you. So you'll get all the digital books, Hallowed Harvest 1 and 2, and all 10 of our other digital volumes, and you also get a print copy of Hallowed Harvest Volume 2, and it's a nice thick high gloss volume, and it will get shipped off to you pretty much, I want to say, give us 2 weeks after we get the campaign funds, and it should arrive there just in time for Halloween. Okay, so at the next tier, pledge $25 or more. This is the All Hallowed print variant tier. So if you want the zombie cover instead of the Samhain Shade cover, just back at this tier. And it's essentially the same with the exception that you'll get the zombie cover instead of the Samhain cover. Okay. Next is the $35 or more tier. This is the Hallows Print Catch-Up Pack. So this is if you want Hallowed Harvest Volume 1 and 2 in print. So you'll get that and all the digital stuff from above. Okay. Next, the All Hallows Print Both variant. Now this is the same as the $25 tier, the All Hallows Print, only you're getting one copy of the Samhain Shade variant and one copy of the zombie variant. So you're getting both of those. Okay, otherwise it's the same and you get all the digital books. Okay. Next, pledge $45 or more. This is the Hallowed Print Catch-Up tier, and it's the same as the Hallowed Print Catch-Up Pack variant, except you get both versions of the cover. Okay. Moving on to the Mythoverse Print Catch-Up Pack. Now this is the $90 tier, and that's everything we ever did in print. That's all this stuff right here. Let me scroll down real quick to that. That's everything right here in print. That's Adobe Kroger Volume 1 and 2, Changeling number 1, Mythics number 1 and 2, Narratives Mythologica 1 and 2, Dropping Out, and Mythochibis. In addition to that, you'll get Hallowed Harvest 1 and 2 in print. Okay, so if you want to just collect everything we've ever done in print all at once, here you go. Okay, the next tier, Mythoverse Print Catch-Up variant. So that's everything from the previous tier, only for Hallowed Harvest Volume 2 you get the zombie cover. Okay. Next, $100 or more. It's the same as the $90 tier that I just talked about, only you get both Volume 2 variants. You get the Samhain Shade variant and the zombie variant. Okay. And last but not least, we have the Mythoverse Trick or Treat Pack. Now that's everything from the $90 tier, and you get a discounted second set, like a huge savings on the second set. And the idea is you can offer those as trick or treat items, or you can pass them out to your friends. You can keep an extra copy for yourself, whatever you want to do. It's a discounted second print set. Ideally, I would love to hand them out for trick or treat. That would be a fantastic thing to do, and it's in keeping with our Halloween theme here. But
just double check the content.
Yeah, double check the content.
Some of the comics are not for children.
Yeah, some of the comics are not for children. Basically, this is a discounted ability to share the print comics. It's obviously not a trick or treat per se. That's just in theme with Halloween. But it's a chance for you to get an extra set at a greatly reduced price. Okay.
Sneak it into the kids' basket so they can get nightmares when they go home.
Yeah, precisely. That's exactly what we want.
I apologize in advance.
All right.
I don't.
All right. So we're at $250 with 4 backers. Very good start. So so last year our goal was 1,000 and we broke that. So I upped the goal a little bit this year, and hopefully we'll go far above and beyond that. We have a $1,500 goal, and that will absolutely cover production. That'll cover mailing, and we'll start to be able to get the artists paid as well. So anything we can get above that, by all means, help us spread the word, get people interested, get their eyes on this, and let them know about these Halloween stories we're putting out. So now that we've talked about the tiers, let's talk a little bit about the stories. So right now we have 6 stories, comic and prose. There may be some more added later. We'll see how the campaign goes. You never know. It's Halloween. It's a tricky season. So the first story we have here is My Best Worst Halloween. Now this, as it says here on the campaign, we had intended to offer the story in last year's volume, but sadly circumstances prevented it from being complete in time for the delivery deadline. So volume 1 shipped without this story, but now it is complete and ready to go for this year's edition. and that makes me very happy because this is a great story, both visually and otherwise. So it was brought to us entirely by Ginger Foxy, who is the colorist for Changeling, and she's also responsible for a lot of the background work and character designs. And if you like Changeling and you think it's vibrant and atmospheric, that's Ginger Foxy. That's all her. So this book is done top down by her. She wrote the story under the supervision of the writer Brett McGowan, and also did all the artwork and all the lettering. So this is the story of the main character of Changeling, and she is having a rather bad Halloween. It tells the story of a night in the life of young Maeve Mackenzie after she discovered the truth of her Fey heritage, and she has a lot to deal with one Halloween. And that's why it's called My Best Worst Halloween. So that's story number 1. Okay. Story number 2 is called I Burn with Hatred, and that is brought to us both script and art by Dylan Fagan, and he's responsible for almost every story in our 2 volumes of Narratus Mythologica, which are volumes that compile short stories that we put on our Patreon, as well as the 22-page one-shot Dropping Out, which tells the story of a night in young Adobe Kroger's life. So, Dylan, can you tell us a little bit about I Burn with Hatred?
It is okay. It is essentially the setup for a character I've been meaning to introduce for a long time. Helen. She is my vampire character. This is her origin story. All I'm really gonna say about it is that it's probably the darkest story next to Neville's. Ours is like neck and neck. The most I can really give away about it is that is a mature content warning.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to be a running theme for this issue. It's definitely a lot darker than the previous one. Like the last one, even the more gruesome stories, I'd give like a hard PG-13, like maybe slightly bordering onto R, but like almost every story at this time is like R.
Yeah,
There's very
we're probably
little levity.
we're probably gonna have to slap the Dark Tree logo on this one.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'll need to do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But and I think that's another cool thing. The darker tone of the stories is reflected in the more expressionistic artwork that Dylan did for the cover.
Yes. Let me scroll up real quick to that. Okay. So, last year the cover was, well, I'll say this about Neville. Neville's artwork, it's like ambush artwork. That's what I call it, because it looks very cute for the most part. His characters are cuddly and round, and they look like little plush dolls a lot of the time. But then they literally like pull a Chucky on you and catch you with a sucker punch of gruesome. So while Neville's artwork had that look and feel, Dylan's artwork on this cover is like James said, it's much more expressionistic. It looks more violent. It looks like whoever was drawing it was, using a knife to sort of scratch it onto the paper, and that certainly reflects tonally in the content for this volume. So that is story number 2, I Burn with Hatred, and we have a couple of sample pages on here, and needless to say, yeah, it's a little bit more adult, but I think you're gonna love this one. Dylan's one of those artists that every time he puts pen to paper, in a way of speaking, he gets a little bit better. So next we have the Blackfire Covenant. Is Salem here with us yet? No, I don't see him. Okay. So we'll come back to that one when Salem is here, and we'll have him talk about it. But this is part 2 of his prose entry from Volume 1, which was called The Blackfire Covenant. And in summary here, it's continuing directly from where Blackfire Covenant Part 1 left off. I don't want to talk too much about it. I'd rather Salem talk about it. So I'll go right on ahead to the next one until Salem gets here. So speaking of Neville, okay, the next story is Fruit of Our Foes, written and drawn by Neville. So if you would please walk us through Fruit of Our Foes, Mr. Neville.
Oh, I guess it didn't change the title. The current title is Jungle of Ghosts.
Oh, okay. So it's called Jungle of Ghosts. This was the most recent title that I saw in the Discord. So
yeah, no problem.
I can absolutely update it to be Jungle of Ghosts. But
don't worry. This story went through like several hundred changes before I finally finished it.
Not a problem. It's trivial to change the title. So we'll call this Jungle of Ghosts by Neville. So tell us about Jungle of Ghosts.
Well, Jungle of Ghosts takes place at the tail end of a pleasant family trip to the beach in Guam. And as you do when you're at the beach with a campfire, you might tell a scary story or two, and before they really get started on it, the kid Tony starts hearing voices. Which is also something that just happens on camping trips. And from there, he gets drawn into the jungle, and things happen after that. Give too much away.
Do the voices tell me, Tony, you're great?
No, it looks like the voices grab his eyeballs and cause havoc.
Yeah.
You know the eyeball grabbing thing with all those fingers can only really work with Neville's art style because the eyes are like so big. Otherwise, realistically, the fingers would have to be like super tiny.
Who says they're not?
See, this is what I mean when I call his style ambush art. Like, look how adorable this character is here. I've got a ghost story with a Tautomona, and then down here we have his eyeballs being grabbed from behind.
You know what that scene with I don't know if this was intentional on Neville's part, but do you know what that scene with the ghosts reminds me of?
Oh, hi, Brett.
Yo.
I didn't hear you come in. Sorry. No, what does it remind you of?
All the scenes with Aku from Samurai Jack.
Oh.
Chop.
Yeah.
Samurai. Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. Definitely.
Like I said, I don't know if that's intentional on Neville's part, though.
Nice.
Neville's just trying to curry favor with me.
Obviously, yes, that's exactly what I'm doing.
So
Neville, the reason I put this panel here, I've got a ghost story about the Tautomona, because I was hoping that you could explain to everyone that isn't familiar with that particular piece of folklore what that entity is.
Well, I'm glad you brought it up. I'm glad you thought to ask because it's a little piece of folklore most people don't know much about.
Right.
The Tautomona are basically the ancestor spirits of the Chamorro people of the Mariana Islands, and Guam specifically. Tautomona have kind of nebulous legends about them, but there's a few things about them that tend to be common across all the stories about them. One of them is that they're very territorial. They tend to live in the jungle, and they get real ornery when you do just about anything to piss them off, and it's a pretty long list. The way I've described them before is like, imagine like the Clint Eastwood get off my lawn old guy and give him magic power.
So kind of like in Warhammer, it's easier to tell what wouldn't make you a heretic than what would make you a heretic.
Pretty much. It's kind of hard to tell what makes them happy, but for whatever reason, if they like you, again, for whatever reason, you'd have no idea why. Sometimes they'll bestow you with incredible superhuman strength.
But if they don't,
that part doesn't usually get brought up in the stories.
But if they don't, they pull your eyeballs out from behind.
Yeah.
I'm not going to comment on that yet because that would be telling.
Yeah. We have Salem in the chat now, Dan.
Oh, Salem. Hi, Salem. How you doing? Glad to have you because I had just gone by Blackfire Covenant Part 2, and I would love for you to talk to tell us a little bit about that when you're ready. But for right now, I just want to wrap up with Neville here. So how many pages will Jungle of Ghosts be?
Jungle of Ghosts is a 19-page story. It took every bit of willpower and a ton of rewrites to keep it under a full-length comic.
It was practically a full-length comic anyway, but
it kind of is, but now it's just underneath it. A lot of the other drafts that I wrote, when I started doing edits for them, I started realizing this could easily just become a whole graphic novel. I need to stop.
Yes. So one thing I loved, the little detail that you added to his character, was his fishhook charm here. Now, is that by any chance a reference to the demigod Maui, or is that just something else?
What can I say? Except you're welcome.
Yeah.
It's a reference to it in that the Maui iconography is kind of it's kind of used widespread across a bunch of islander cultures, whether or not their culture actually revered him.
Right.
So it's pretty ubiquitous that way.
Yeah, I mean, the fishhook symbol is pretty ubiquitous. As far as I've found, Chamorros do not actually have an equivalent to Maui. They have a very particular sort of mythology that's very specific to them and doesn't seem to have much crossover with Polynesian myth, which is kind of odd in and of itself.
Neville, you can't call them islanders. You call them people of island.
Shut up! I'm one of them.
Yeah.
I call them whatever the hell I want.
Yeah, he can call them islanders. He's got that card. He's got that pass.
Right. I got several cards.
All right, well, awesome, Neville. Looking forward to seeing this one done, and I think the readers are going to get a kick out of this one. From what I've seen, it has some pretty gruesome stuff going on, but I will not talk to it because it's just something that you have to experience. So,
yeah, I want to keep the specifics a little bit obscure. And one thing I want to clarify, because Neostar has been bringing it up, because I didn't quite elaborate on this. The things that the Tautaumona usually do if you piss them off is they'll usually afflict you with a really horrible disease, and as a calling card, they leave a handprint-shaped bruise on your chest. This is what usually happens in a lot of the traditional stories.
Nice. They sound like wonderful. Now, they're spirits of ancestors, right?
They're ancestor spirits,
right.
But they're also real. Like I said, they're basically how you'd imagine, like, what would happen with actual people who get that old and get that grumpy and are left to stew in it for eternity.
Wow. I can see why you wanted to tell a story about them. There's so much you can do with this.
Oh yes. And it goes in a direction that you might not expect.
Great. Those are the best kind of stories. So readers, get ready for that. This is not Fruit of Our Foes. This is Jungle of Ghosts. I will update the campaign when I have a chance. But for right now, Jungle of Ghosts by Neville, 19 pages. And here are some samples of the artwork. And this is just the merest fraction of what you can expect these two panels. Just I'll leave it at that. So thank you very much, Neville. All right, so let me now that Salem is here with us, Salem, would you mind talking a little bit about the Blackfire Covenant, Part 2, as well as the overall story that you're crafting here with the Blackfire Covenant?
Yeah, sure. So what I've got going on is just continues right after what was left off in the first one, since I just pretty much dropped, the pieces in place just for like your basic story with you set up the supernatural set up in the first one. A couple of the characters were set up, so now after that initial introduction in the first part, we move to the second part where it's like I can start moving the pieces a little bit, and it's what we're going to be doing. What I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to be dropping a few more hints as to what the cult and the witches are all about, which I will touch briefly on how it's a bit of a hybridization between things from Celtic, but also the Gallic, so like the native French mythology and such. And but this one will be a little more focused on in terms like the I guess you could say like the action, the scare. This one is going to be a little more subtle and subdued, where the first one was a little more in your face. This one is going to be a little more akin to a haunting type of type of horror, and it's going to be in a hospital. So it's a little bit of a cliche place, but one of my favorite ones because the thing about a hospital, I think, makes it a great place for a lot of people return to in terms of making horror is because hospitals are supposed to be places of security and safety, even more so than your own home, because the people who are supposed to be, you are supposed to have people who look after you there. I think that's what kind of lends to it being always a big place that people return to. And so I wanted to, even though I don't like to do uh, cliches or well, maybe not necessarily cliches, but like a lot of environments and settings people turn to. I really wanted to take a swing at doing my own little bit of a haunted hospital type of setting. So we'll be doing it. That's what that will be doing, and yeah, instead, and the other thing too is I want to kind of establish how much of a threat some of these beings are, the witches. So everything that you'll be reading in this one will be the work of just one witch, even though there's quite a few of them. And I'm kind of looking forward to that because I've also taken a bit of a liking to the idea of like being scared of like what is real, what isn't real, what is going on, what isn't. I'm kind of utilizing that, and yeah, that's about all I got right now in terms of just a little brief overview as to what I'm going to be doing.
Very cool. Yeah, before I say anything else, I just want to stress that I don't think you should worry about using a familiar setting. Those are storytelling tools for a reason. They help the reader to understand like the tone and the atmosphere you're trying to create, and using a familiar setting like a hospital to give off that illusion of safety while subverting it. That's a very effective way of telling the story, and I think it's perfectly fine, even if it is a familiar setting. So it all depends on the execution, and from what I've read in the previous chapter, I don't think we have much to worry about. I think you're going to execute it just fine. So last time around for Blackfire Covenant, we had an illustration from Omenomicon. Are we going to be able to expect one of those for Volume 2?
I do not know just yet. However, I am aiming to get in that direction. That'll depend on if Omen is available. I don't think the illustration will be, if we are able to get an illustration, it won't be as elaborate as that first one was, but it's only because you're not going to be seeing the witch very much, if at all, in this one. You'll see a silhouette of the witch, but the horror's gonna, or the scares are more gonna come forward from what the witch is doing, instead of the witch being right in front of you.
I love that.
And
I love that.
I did.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Well, I just I've especially in like this world of like I mean nowadays it's like nobody can discern reality from fiction from reality, or it's a willful blindness to confront reality, and I'm finding that aspect more and more fascinating as time goes by. So that's kind of the whole idea that I'm going with here, and also I think that uh, getting more info about the cult and the witches is a little more interesting without them being there to directly tell them themselves. I think that it kind of adds more to that mythic or the folklore aspect.
That and what I was going to say is I think horror is much more effective when you make the reader or viewer do most of the work for you. Like, everyone knows what scares themselves a lot better than any writer or filmmaker can. So the more you leave up to their imagination, the more they fill in those blanks and make the work all the more effectively scary. So I love that. That's very cool.
And the thing is too is that hauntings have never really scared me. Like objects moving, without being touched, and you know, just little noises going on here and there. I mean, I live out in the middle of the literal woods right now. That stuff doesn't scare me. It happens all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I just with this, I'm kind of like, okay, so what of those elements would kind of spook me? What would kind of get a chill up my spine? Like, like for example, like the Paranormal Activity movies never did it for me. Even the very first one. So I kind of sat down. I'm like, okay, how would these things kind of scare me? And the biggest thing to be added to that equation is it threatens something that I would care about, and in this case, it would be the character Amy, who's been taken to the hospital. She's unconscious the other time, so what is going to be, the biggest scare, or the biggest, thing that's adding tension, is questioning if she's safe or not. And so that's the ultimate goal that I'm going for here.
Very, very cool. I, for one, can't wait to read it, and I honestly think everyone's going to enjoy it. I love the atmosphere you created with the story. Ominamakan's illustration really captured the tone of the story very well. It was almost like I almost want to say it looked like it's like a wood carving, or almost like a tarot card, or that kind of thing. It was stylized, yet also very, very full of life. So,
she did a good. She's actually from Ireland, so she knows that culture better than anybody else, I'd say.
Oh,
and
very nice.
She also added in the elements of that French paganism that I wanted to touch in too, which like I said, it will be briefly mentioned, how this is a culmination of a few different cultures into one, and it's something that I kind of made up of my own.
Yeah. Looks like Pickles and Neostar are about to go into virtual fisticuffs. So if you have to do that, guys, just remember, keep it above the belt. Okay.
They better. Pickles is English. His country invented Queensberry rules.
Yeah, fisticuffsmanship. Okay.
Hit each other in the dick.
Stream derails become spectator sport.
You mean? Oh God, we're about to become an internet blood sport. Or its channel.
All right.
I instantly regret all of my decisions.
Back to the stream. All
right, guys. Thank you very much, Salem. That is a Blackfire Covenant Volume 2, a prose entry in Hallowed Harvest Volume 2. So speaking of prose,
I just gotta say, I work night shift. I begin my shift in just a couple minutes, so I'm unfortunately gonna have to bounce.
Okay.
Hey, Salem, before you take off, Is that where you take fear pushing poltergeist?
Yes, I have.
Did you like it?
Yeah, like I said, hauntings never did it for me.
I don't. I a poltergeist. Wow.
I'm sorry. Okay, guys, but thanks for having me on to explain, to share what I'm going to be working on, and hopefully next time I can get in for the whole session. Just been very busy recently.
Awesome. Understood. We've all been there, and don't work too hard. And thanks for coming on.
All right, talk to you guys later.
All right.
See ya.
All right. So Neo says I'm currently on my shift. I can type but never chat. Yeah, I know that feel, my friend. I know that feel. All right. So that is a Blackfire Covenant prose entry in Hallowed Harvest Volume 2. So speaking of prose entries, let's go on to our next story, Hallows Eve: The Investigation. Now this is another prose entry written by the project founder James Stern, and it will be featuring an illustration by Bezel LeBlanc that you see on your screen right now. So Mr. James, if you would, tell us a little bit about Hallows Eve: The Investigation.
Yes. This story is what happens when I was planning on writing a short comic, and then for 3 months did nothing before bed except read Lovecraft, and decide to make it a prose story instead. So yeah, originally, Forrester pitched a comic idea to me, wanted me to do the writing for it. And initially I agreed, and then just kind of slept on it for a couple months because I was just swamped with work and other stuff. And eventually, when I finally time opened back up again and I could start focusing on Hallowed Harvest Volume 2, I had just finished my collection of H.P. Lovecraft works. And so I was in a very H.P. Lovecraft mood, so I sat down and decided to just, screw it, I'll write a prose story. And so, the investigation in terms of style and construction is a pastiche to H.P. Lovecraft. For those of you who don't know what that means, it's basically parody, except instead of mocking the inspiring work, it's an homage. It's meant to pay respect to what made the original good. So that's kind of like the structure and story. And so far, I've received positive feedback. I think Dan, in the description you put that fans of Lovecraft might enjoy the prose.
Yep. I said, with an elegant voice, fans of Lovecraftian horror should enjoy. This prose debut from James Stern will hit all the right notes for fans of the mysterious and the unknowable. So
Yeah.
I think, I was very pleased when James asked me to look over the work. Being a fan of Lovecraft myself, I immediately picked up on the voice, but that is not a bad thing. Like James said, it is a pastiche, it's a loving tribute, and it works as its own story. But if you do love the way Lovecraft, his prose flows, you will love this.
Yeah, and that's another thing about it. I borrowed his style in prose. I worked very hard to mimic his word choice and the general story structure, but I didn't pull anything from his actual mythos.
Right.
So it is entirely original content. It's just the style is borrowed from Lovecraft. As for content, murder. It's pretty much the story. Thank you, Neville.
Oh my god.
The story is actually very simple and straightforward. A tabloid journalist sees an opportunity to rise above his or her station. I haven't determined if it's a guy or a girl yet, because it doesn't really matter for the purposes of the story. But the nameless narrator is a tabloid journalist and sees an opportunity to rise above his station by trying to get to the root of a string of grotesque murders that have occurred across the state of Michigan. And so the story, the first 2/3 to 3/4 of it is a retelling of the event. So here's the first murder, here's the second murder, here's the third murder, here's the details surrounding the murders, the details of the crime scene, and what makes it unique and interesting. And there's interspersed in the details are little snippets of what the character is doing during the investigation, like where they're going and how frustrating it can be to find the information when you're effectively working for a sensationalist publication, so nobody takes you seriously in the first place. And then toward the end is where it's at the beginning and at the end that I introduce the Lovecraftian story structure. So at the beginning, there's an allusion to some spooky, unknowable thing, or like there's something larger than the natural going on. And then that's brought full circle toward the end, where there's an elaboration on a couple of details that's mentioned in passing, moving through the first 2/3 of the story, so that by the end, there's a mildly compelling argument that something beyond the natural is happening, without necessarily going into complete detail. And I was trying to kind of bounce around the story while describing its structure at the same time.
Yeah, you don't want to spoil too much, but you also want to get people drawn in. And I think,
well, I think describing the structure, like it's the structure of a Lovecraft story.
Sure.
If you've read several, then like the structure should sound somewhat familiar. But the specifics of what happens and like you have the specifics of what happens, and then because Lovecraft's prose is very distinct, I find that there's enjoyment in just the prose itself. So there's still like that you can take out of it.
Now,
so
go ahead.
I might just have to tag Sandy Peterson to signal business.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear what you said, Brett. You were skipping out.
I'm saying I said I might have to try tagging Sandy Peterson to signal biz this.
Oh, cool. Yeah, please do. So James, tell us a little bit about this illustration here.
Yes. So, I have commissioned. This is one of several art pieces I've commissioned from Bezel LeBlanc, one of the artists for the Mythoverse, who I don't think has had any featured artwork yet, outside of like promotions on Twitter. So this will be her first official piece in the Mythoverse, as far as I'm aware. So what's depicted here is a set of lovers. They've been stabbed through the heart, and as you can see, with their blood, there's been traced a heart outline. And then at their feet is a strangely phosphorescent flower that may or may not have mythological significance.
I love it. I mean, this is such a great piece. We got to get...
Yeah, she knocked it out of the park.
Without a doubt, like, that's a grand slam. That is such a great piece. Definitely got to get some more work from her. All right.
I just had a terrible thought. Let's make that a poster. That'd be such a weird poster, but it's such a good piece.
It is a good piece, and I'm fine with that. We can add it here where we make that a poster at any time. So next we have another story from you and Forrester. It's called Hallows Eve: The Hunt. Now, I don't have any art to show from this yet, but we will very soon.
Correct.
So
I can actually
go ahead.
I can pass you the first page.
Okay.
And then I guess you could just throw that up on screen.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay.
Go ahead and message it to me.
Yeah, so before you throw it up on screen, just note some of the text is just placeholder. So copyright gods, do not sue us. But yeah, this is the first panel.
Okay.
This is going to be part of the first panel. The Hallows Eve: The Hunt is actually going to be the first tie-in to what will eventually be my mainline comic for the Mythoverse, Spear of Ikea. So what happens in Hallows Eve: The Hunt? It's kind of the inverse tale of Hallows Eve: The Investigation. So they both focus on the same set of events, but from two perspectives. One is someone who enters not believing in the supernatural, just wanting to find the core of these murders. And the hunt, though not in as much detail, it does explore the supernatural side of things and gives a little bit more insight into what's going on there. In addition to formally introducing 2 new mainstays in the Mythoverse.
I love Forrester's art,
Oh,
especially when
yeah.
Forrester is so good. He's got this uncanny ability to make his art look like it was not only drawn in the 50s and 60s, but printed in the 50s and 60s. It's fantastic. Let me real quick swap over to this screen here so I can show off this special treat that I gave to our patrons. Where is it? Somewhere around here.
I don't think I've ever seen an artist capture the retro look better than Forrester.
No, I haven't either, and that is exactly why I gave him this assignment. Yeah, it's taking a little while to load on the Patreon, so I'll put that over here and go back to this right here. Okay, yeah, that was an aside. I don't want to derail the conversation about the hunt. I just wanted to show everyone the caliber of artist that Forrester was, and that's apparent here in this one single panel because you see the newsprint look, and this is how things were printed. Back then, they just put dots close together or further away to simulate the gradation. And for color, if you zoom in real close, you can see the red, green, and blue CMYK or CMYK dots. So, and he does a fantastic job of capturing that look. So, I'm really excited that you got Forrester on board for this.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see the rest of the comic. So I basically, instead of writing a full script, this is a lot more collaborative between me and him. He kind of had the idea. I pitched him a rough outline that's like, okay, here's the order of events. Here's what the characters are doing. Here's roughly what they're saying. And then he's going to focus more heavily on the actual paneling and some of the dialogue. And then I'll review it and make sure it's in keeping with how the characters would behave and move and all that fun stuff. So that's another thing I like about working about him. It feels like he and I have a pretty good understanding of how each other work, and so our collaborations can be very collaborative. I can think of a better way to say that.
No,
Makes me sad.
I get you. So yeah,
You guys basically work in the Marvel method.
That's what he said. He said it was old school Marvel.
That's good.
Yeah, well, what happened is
it works.
Yeah, in case anyone doesn't know that, what Marvel used to do things back in the day was because Stan didn't have time to write all the scripts out. The artist would just give him an outline of story beats, and he would sort of write a script around that, and then they would draw it out.
Yeah. So, so I found the piece I was looking for. This was specifically tailored for Forrester's strengths and his ability to create the authentic retro look. If you're my age or thereabouts, you're probably deeply, intimately familiar with the Hostess fruit pie ads that would be interspersed all throughout comics. And what they did was they actually created full-page short stories featuring popular characters like the Hulk or Spider-Man or what have you. And they would solve a problem or they would defeat a villain by using the power of snack cakes, Hostess snack cakes. So what I did was I said, hey, Forrester, here's a script for Adobe and Althea trying to save Sasha from Mason the cultist. And they defeat him by throwing Waitress fruit pies at him. So Waitress is our in-universe analog to Hostess. And if you look in Triple Crown, you'll see that a number of racers were sponsored by Waitress. So here's Forrester's take on those Hostess fruit pie ads, and just it's perfect. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually slip this ad in when everyone least expects it into our comics, and sort of recreate that same experience where all of a sudden you see this short ad featuring snack cakes. So there you go. So that is that. So let's go back to the campaign. So that is all of the stories. We've talked about all the tiers. And we have 5 backers. We're up to $251 out of $1,500. So we're off to a decent start. We're moving. So here's our plan. Okay. So the artwork is close to being done for all of the stories. And by the time the campaign completes, they will be long finished, and I will have the print proof all set and approved by then. And we have about 2 weeks typically to receive the funds after the campaign completes. And the printers that I've worked with, like once they have the print proofs set and approved, turn things around very quickly. And I'm going to order up a full run from there, and we're going to fulfill it ourselves. I found a printer that does amazingly quick and efficient short run comic runs, and Matt lives very close by to that. Matt, our head writer, so he is going to be taking care of that fulfillment, and he's already all set to do that. He's got pretty much a little mini fulfillment center, the second of which, the first one being, of course, my house. And he's going to be taking care of the Changeling issue 2 fulfillment, and he will also be doing Hallowed Harvest for us. So we've got it all planned out. We've done dry runs. We've done test runs. I know the time frames that we have to work with. So the goal, and I believe it's something that we can meet, is to have the prints out to everyone at or before Halloween. So
yeah, and to kind of give a more concrete outline, so people kind of know what to expect. The hard deadline I've set for the Hallowed Harvest number 2 team is September 14th. That's going to be the hard deadline to get everything in. Everything's in then. That gives us probably about a week of editing, and then that'll be 3 weeks to get the print proof in, at which point by then we should have received the Kickstarter funds, and so we can immediately send out the digitals and get to work on physical fulfillment.
That's right. And all the packing materials are already with Matt. We've already got that done preemptively. So it will simply be a matter of how quickly the printer can turn it around and how quickly we can get it out there. So we've done some dry runs. So let's just say we've had a dress rehearsal for this. So I think we're in good shape if everything can get turned in and we get the funds when we need to get them. And that is that. We will have this out to you by Halloween. So thanks to everyone who's backed so far. We're about an hour and 15 minutes into the stream right now, and this is typically when I fire up a game. So if you're watching and you haven't backed, please consider backing, or at least spread the word. Retweet it when you see us. Remind us or share it on Facebook, and just let's get this campaign funded and into your hands. The first one was a great success. I think it went over really well, and this one's going to be even better. So let's make it happen, people. All right, I guess this is the part where we just talk about whatever we want to talk about, and I'll play a game for a little bit.
Yeah. Well, something I kind of want to talk about is almost a little bit of a retrospective, which there's only Neville and Dylan to talk to this about, but I kind of want to hear what their experience was working on the both the new one and on the Hallowed Harvest number 1, and like kind of what the experience was, what you've learned from it, because I think
So
that could
for
be something
number
to talk
1
about.
and number 2.
Yeah, so like just how you felt about the development cycle, what you've learned, what you've enjoyed about working on the project.
You want to go for it, Neville?
Hmm?
Oh,
I mean, yeah, I guess I can do that.
well, I didn't want to be rude or anything. I was.
I mean, if I'm going first, okay. So, the first time around, was a very different experience from the second time because,
Oh, yeah.
well, yeah, because
3.5 months versus like 6 months.
yeah, well, there's that, and the 3.5 month thing made me treat it kind of like a challenge where I was trying to crank out this story as quickly as possible. And one of the things that helped me do it is like, I guess a big difference between the first time around and the second time around for me is that the first time around, I just had it, everything is kind of thrown together where it's like, oh, okay, I have a character that just happens to fit this topic that I've been getting interested in again that I can make a story about. And I just mashed things together, and then Maze of Dolls came out.
That's a funny analogy. You mash things together. That's kind of what happens in Maze of Dolls. Things get mashed together.
Yes, yes, they do.
It's very grotesque.
That's about what happens, and that's how it did happen. But yeah, and with Maze of Dolls, I also didn't make a whole lot of edits. I didn't actually change it all that much from the first draft. What you see in the book is basically just what the first draft looked like. Maybe with some slight adjustments. And
Yes.
that's about it.
Oh, that's another thing that I think we forgot to mention is the Hallowed Harvest #1 will be a slightly re-edited version. There were just a couple of grammar and small lettering mistakes that we went through and fixed up.
Oh, yeah.
So there will be slightly higher quality on the second run. So if you got the first run, hang on to those because potential collector's item.
I guess so. So for me, the big difference between the first and the second one was actually how much pre-production and preparation that I did for Jungle of Ghosts. Because I might have mentioned this briefly, but Maze of Dolls, like I said, is not too different from what the first draft was like. Jungle of Ghosts is, well, for one, the title kept changing, so that tells you how much it changed. And it kept kind of morphing and twisting around from the original draft. And in fact, originally, Jungle of Ghosts was going to be a period piece set in the 40s. It was still going to be set on Guam. It was still going to involve the Tau Tau Mona, but the big difference is that instead of modern day and a camping trip, it was going to be during World War II during the occupation of Guam.
Yeah, I remember you talking about that. I had completely forgotten that the story was originally going to be set during wartime.
Yeah, and the reason it changed is not because I didn't like the idea and that I didn't want to do it. It changed because all the ways that I could think of to do it and everything that I wanted to do and all the beats that I would have to hit for this story to work required the story to be at least 25 or 26 pages.
Yeah.
So the page count kind of became the big deciding factor of how I told this story. Because I wanted to stay within... I didn't want to, like, overindulge in just... I didn't want to, like, take full advantage of, okay, there's only a soft page limit this time. Writes 3 graphic novels.
And that is very much appreciated.
But yeah, the original story, Fruit of Our Foes, is actually tied in. The title Fruit of Our Foes is far more tightly tied into the original drafts of the story.
Well, but I think it still...
It
from
does.
what I've read,
fit
it
in.
does fit. it does fit part of the thing. Can I explain a little bit about the Tautomona and why the Fruit of Our Foes fits? Or would you
Well,
like to
the
do that?
Tauta. So, I feel like that would be telling though.
Okay, then that's fine. We'll leave it be.
That's the thing, because like the original and this one actually do have comparable story beats. If you like really boil them down, they're fairly similar, which is why I'm trying not to be too specific about the original draft. Or the original drafts, because I went through like 3 or 4 of them before I finally settled on this one. But they all had a fairly comparable like set of story beats, and they all end in a fairly similar way, which I will not give away yet. But Fruit of Our Foes. Okay, Fruit of Our Foes. The best way I can describe it, the closest way I can describe it, is that it's related to what the beings that say they're the Tautomona say their goals are. That's as far as I will go. That's as much of a hint as you're getting about that.
Very good.
But yeah, the big difference is the sheer amount of editing that I did between the first and the last draft, and that's in no small part because I had essentially started working on this story since like March. I've been drawing and writing drafts for Jungle of Ghosts for somewhere in the like I said, somewhere in the neighborhood of 6 months.
Well, and I can say, like, I have yet to see it strung all together. I've just seen the updated pages and panels as you post them, but it looks and like the story flow is really, really good. I'm looking forward to seeing it all in one continuous piece.
Thank you. I'm taking advantage of the fact that I've just as a status update for the story, the entire thing is basically finished. Like, pages 1 through 19 are all fully rendered. Now it's me, like, flipping through it again and doing edits. And doing little fixes and adjustments.
Continuity edits.
Continuity edits and, like, some color edits and some cleaning stuff up and crossing the T's and dotting the I's and all that kind of thing.
Well, I'm glad you're taking advantage of the expanded production cycle to make sure it's as good as it can be.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's been... Both of them were fun to do. They just involved very different skill sets and involved a very different production cycle. Maze of Dolls was kind of cobbled together. Jungle of Ghosts was very deliberate and very, very, very involved.
Yeah, well, I would imagine that would translate to much higher quality. And I would say Maze of Dolls was one of the better stories in the initial anthology, so I'm really looking forward to how Jungle of Ghosts turns out.
Yeah, same.
Dan multitasking, playing video game, and also following conversation.
I'm trying to, anyway. Yeah, Maze of Dolls was, like I said, that's a prime example of ambush art. Like, I had no idea when I first read it the direction it was going to go in. They hinted at it, but then it just takes you by surprise in the last page. And I think that was the most satisfying thing about it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Well, Jungle of Ghosts is going to have something like that because, like I said, the beginning of it is just the tail end of a family.
Yeah. All right. Dylan.
Right. Right. Okay, so the question, what was my experience?
Yeah. So, what was your experience working on both Hollowed Harvest Volume 1 and 2? What are some of the things you learned? What are some of the things you enjoyed about it?
Okay, I think going from issue 1 or volume 1 to volume 2, I really, so far I had pretty much taken almost a year's worth of, when I really got started on volume 2, I really took in a year's worth of practice and stuff I learned and applied it to the art of issue 2, because I feel like I really tried to step up my game with this one, not only with the kind of story I would tell, but how I would do it. Because issue 1, it's a really simple sort of monster story. Hunting a demented vampire in the sewers, right? And then, oh, am I echoing? Oh, jeez.
Tiny bit, but it's not a big deal.
And then I'm doing the vampire thing again, uh, but I really wanted to, you explore it just a little bit, show just how truly awful vampires can be at their worst. You know what I mean? Uh, I don't know if I'm really answering the question or not. I'm just
No, I think you're doing fine.
yeah. Yeah. Trying to think. Um, ask me another question. It'll help me out here. Brain fart.
So that's kind of like your experience in terms of like artistic level and where you were and where you are. So, what did you learn coming out of volume 1? If anything.
I think if anything, I did receive a little criticism from some close friends of mine. You know, mostly with the pacing and stuff. I I I tried to work on the pacing here. I only have uh I think now that I had more time with this one, I could afford to make it a little longer, because issue 1 was actually going to have somewhat of a longer ending, but it had to be cut short due to time restraints. But I do plan on revisiting that particular storyline in the future, though. But I'm really glad to sort of take the narrative things I've learned over, the criticism I received and stuff I've learned from the past year, and apply it to, okay, because, okay, yeah, issue 1, very action orientated. And I felt like I could do better. That's what I got out of it. I felt like I could go into second one, and I kind of took notes from Dan, just beating the absolute shit out of a character.
Well, I think that's always a good trait to have, to be able to take the criticism and apply it and not just kind of sulk with it.
Yeah. Oh no, Helen in this story, everything that happens to her is so completely unfair. It's awful. It's horrible. The real goal of the story is just to make the reader feel awful about this for this character, and so because I want to make because the plan for Helen and her main story is to go on is a sort of revenge quest kind of deal.
So you're basically trying to provide a very strong justification for why this character needs to go on a revenge quest beyond just, oh, you slighted me in this very minor way 40 years ago, now I must kill you.
Well, 800 years ago, but yeah.
You forgot the
Matter of
tomato on
skill.
my burger. Now you gotta pay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not going to be like John Wick where, I mean, badass and understandable, but the retaliation was not in keeping with the crime at all.
It absolutely is. I'm gonna murder every motherfucker who kills my dog.
Yeah.
Well, he did, but then he had to deal with the fallout.
Okay, but
Yeah.
but listen, you know, I am in it for I am in it for results. If I'm writing a revenge story the way I want to, I'm not gonna have Helen like have a memory of someone playing a guitar and then
Oh,
letting
no.
and then
Very
letting
good,
that person
Dylan,
go.
very good.
It's like no, I'm gonna show you how to do a revenge story.
Yeah. Well, that all sounds really great. I'm looking forward to seeing it in action. All right.
But yeah, just anything to, uh, just to note, yeah, it's this, I Burn with Hatred is going to be a really rough read. Like it'll make, hopefully, it'll make you uncomfortable. That's the goal.
I mean, that should hypothetically be the goal of horror, is to breed discomfort.
Well, yeah, because it made me uncomfortable drawing it out. So hopefully, it works.
Yeah.
I mean, back when I used to do anime reviews, I had a rule for writing jokes. If it gets a laugh out of me, then I'm doing something right.
Right.
Well, that's really great. Trying to think of what else. So, maybe a question for Brett. So you've kind of been on the sidelines by and large for Hollow Harvest. This has been like the first really big step taken outside of the main three and Dylan, in terms of producing a comic, in terms of new story material. It's a big conglomerate team. What have your thoughts been watching the project, both Volume 1 and Volume 2 unfold?
I think it's too soon to call for its Volume 2, but I was very impressed with how Volume 1 performed, and I still stand by what I said a year ago. That was a watershed moment for us as a brand, because that showed something that Matt, Dan, and I wanted the Mythoverse to be able to do, and it was that we could push new stories by new creators that weren't necessarily the three of us, and there would be an audience for them. Basically, that proved to us that the Mythoverse was not going to live and die with the three of us.
Yeah, you said the exact. I was rewatching one of our discussion streams from Volume 1. It was the one with Marmaduke fan, I think. And you said those exact words. You didn't want the Mythoverse to just live and die with you, Matt and Dan.
Absolutely not. We want this thing to be able to, like, if circumstances force the three of us to have to leave, we'd want it to be able to keep going.
Well, one of my goals while operating in the Mythoverse is to contribute to that, to make sure that it's not just you, Matt, and Dan doing all the legwork. I want to help contribute to the mythos, to team morale. Like, I want to help the Mythoverse be successful where I can, And that's one of the things I love about the Mythoverse community is everyone's committed to that goal. We're all in it to help the brand succeed. We're all in it to help each other succeed. And I'm not sure how many adventures that just kind of spawn on such a small scale and then grow are able to say that. Like that.
Speak for yourself. I'm in it for the trauma.
Okay, Neville's in it for traumatizing the children.
Yes.
Who isn't?
Yes.
But yeah, I think like we have something a little unique in our dedication to helping each other out, despite being scattered across the globe and having such a wide variety of experiences.
In a lot of ways, we're not that dissimilar from the original Valiant, because they weren't okay. I mean, like they weren't exactly scattered all the globe. They all worked out of an office in New York, but the experienced people they brought on with them helped turn a lot of the new people who were just starting to break into the comics industry. Like they had an impromptu lesson for the less experienced artists that they called Knob Row, and the name kind of came from the fact that the experienced guys were helping turn the new guys and as into better artists, i.e. turning the knob. And one of the people who got their start at that Valiant was Joe Quesada.
Well, I'd say yeah, the admins do a really good job.
I don't think you want to bring that up, Brett.
Huh?
Hey, did he? Okay, yeah. Look, one more day was the worst idea. Was probably the worst Spider-Man story that's ever been told. But Joe Quesada did a lot of good throughout his career.
Mostly with his mom.
But yeah, I think there's a lot to say for Meprat and Dan as well, in that they have done a lot to cultivate the younger talent. I know Dan's been an invaluable asset for me as I'm kind of working on project management skills, and also just creatively. He's been a major boon. So,
Yep.
thank you, Dan.
Not a problem.
I think that's definitely something that I think we want to be able to cultivate throughout the wider, I guess for lack of a better term, company culture. That we want this. We want to be able to teach mentorship.
Yeah.
Because I mean, sooner or later, it's going to be up to you guys to teach a new guy who's just starting to get his foot in the door.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when I see someone who's eager to make something happen, and they just might not have the wherewithal, but they have the fire, and I can provide that wherewithal, then I feel that that's the best use of my time as a force multiplier. So when James approached me with this idea, I was going to do everything I could to make sure that it happened.
Enough of the serious self-congratulations for the Mythoverse. Let's get on to the memes.
My back's
now.
getting sore from all this patting.
Yeah, let's get on to the memes. Neville,
Yes.
start the shit show.
So let's hear some Kermit.
Yes, Kermit.
Hey, old Kermit the Frog, you.
We should have a series, Kermit Reads Shakespeare, for the Mythoverse channel.
Let's do that.
Who wants
Kermit
to hear
reads
about war crimes?
Or we should talk about war crimes with Kermit. Oh no, Dad, I just had a terrible idea. Have Nebel read the investigation in Kermit voice.
Sorry.
Oh
Are you
no.
willing to do that, Neville? I'll totally pay you for it.
Well, now that there's money involved, I absolutely will do it.
Let's do it. We'll make that a bonus. We'll have for those who are for some reason still here, there are plans to have a audio book version of the investigation short story, done normally and somewhat professionally. And I guess now we're gonna add Neville Kermit voice for the memes. I love it.
Yeah,
This is what I love about the Mythoverse.
yeah. Let's do it. Let's make this happen. It has to happen.
Yes, I will do this. I will do this horrible thing because I think it's funny.
Well, have you read the story, right? Or at least had it read to you?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah. So like you understand why it would be hilarious.
Of course.
Oh. I can't wait now. This is all I'm gonna be able to think about for the next 3 days.
Oh man.
Could Nebula at least do the "Is this a dagger I see before me?" in his current
Oh.
voice?
Ah, man.
I think that's
Is that
the
how-
Scottish play. The Scottish. No, it's the Scottish
Oh, the
play.
Scottish- Oh. You mean McDonald's?
The McDonald's.
Macduff.
Macbeth.
I don't know. I want to do something other than Shakespeare for like. I wanna spice it up with some variety. Get me a difference. Fetch me a different soliloquy.
Fetch you a different soliloquy.
Yes.
Hmm.
Almighty Kermit demands it.
I mean, we can do the whole
Homer.
creature monologue from Frankenstein. You know, like
Oh, there's
60 pages of dialogue.
There's gotta be a good. There's
Damn it,
gotta
me
be a good
without my
pad.
copy.
Let me see there. Let me see. What's the bet? What's the? Let me get the opening to the Iliad.
I actually read that for our channel.
Yeah, he did.
It's on there somewhere.
Yep.
Oh my goodness.
And it's not that
I mean-
great because I am not good at voice, or I'm not good at reading for people.
We got
But I made
Line-
an effort.
lines 1 through 15 from the Iliad, Nebel.
Alright. You got the link for me? Oh, there it is. Okay, here we go. Okay, here we go! Do I read... Okay, these are... Is Rage a character, or is that a line I say?
I think it's a character.
Ah, okay. Sing, goddess, Achilles' rage, black and murderous that cost the Greeks incalculable pain, pitched countless souls of heroes into Hades' dark, and left their bodies to rot as feasts for dogs and birds as Zeus's will was done. Began with clash between Agamemnon, the Greek warlord, and godlike Achilles. Which of the immortals set these two at each other's throats? Apollo, Zeus's son, and Letos, offended by the warlord. Agamemnon had dishonored Chryses, Apollo's priest, so the gods struck the Greek camp with a plague, and the soldiers were dying of it. Fuck you in particular.
That's a very good addition. Thank you. Well, I was just scrolling through and I saw a meme of D&D, and apparently there's a homebrewed spell. Fuck that guy in particular. Infinite range. Anytime someone casts it, a randomly determined creature in the universe gets hit by lightning. If any other spellcaster anywhere in the universe casts the spell within a minute, that same person gets hit by lightning. So, and it does a decent amount of damage. It's like 3d10 lightning per cast at base level.
Amazing.
As I saw it, and I'm just like, is it practical? No. But the
Hilarious?
memes.
Yes.
Oh yes.
Hey Kermit, you want to be reminded of your PTSD?
Which one?
A B C D Cookie Monster.
It's around, it's the thing you can eat, and it's orange! It's an orange! Ah!
Oh my. I love it.
Listen,
You know,
I was halfway to whipping those kids' asses, but then the monster came and I decided to whip his.
You know,
I
to
miss
sort of
Martin. Where the hell is he? I want to duel banjos with him.
okay, so to kind of jump up that D&D meme, sort of, and to kind of tie back into the bit of the Lovecraft that's in this edition of Halloween Harvest. Okay, so I've really gotten into Sandy Peterson's channel recently, and one of the videos I watched up was when he was talking about what it was like when he was designing Call of Cthulhu. And for the longest time, like during development, one of the things he was struggling with was, how do I properly get horror in a game setting? Like, how do I make the players feel afraid?
Oh, I thought you said whore.
And
Yeah, no. We were all thinking it, but it didn't need to be said.
Okay.
that's a Dylan thing.
Yes.
Hey, don't call me out. What the fuck?
Okay, so he was where he kind of had the light bulb moment was during one playtest, saying where the players were actually acting out the fear for their characters. Like one of the players said, "I'm gonna have my character cover their eyes. They don't want to look at." I think what they were summoning was a dimensional shambler. I don't remember. It was some kind of monster, but whatever it was so awful that they didn't want the characters to look. They didn't want their characters to see it. And that kind of happened after he had introduced the sanity mechanic. And that's when pretty much everything started clicking with them, that it was basically kind of inverting standard RPG rules, because up until that point, the whole point of an RPG was that your character got better and better as the game went on.
Mm-hmm.
Call of Cthulhu, your character gets worse. The more your character learns about, the more insight, the more your character learns about the monsters and all the spooky shit, the more they lose their grip on sanity.
Man,
Yeah,
I would love to play some Call of Cthulhu someday.
You can instantly make your character insane if you make him watch Evangelion. I'm just kidding.
No, boy. Anime reference that goes over Stern's head, number 8,537.
I understood everything! He just thought it looked cool.
But yeah, that was actually kind of groundbreaking for the time. And as far as I know, there aren't too many tabletop RPGs that sort of purposely make your character actually degenerate as the game goes on.
Yeah.
Most tabletop RPGs, even if they've got more or a bit slanted them, they still want to make your characters feel empowered somewhat.
Yeah, I think I've seen one. It's not that your character necessarily degenerates over time, but the characters can, instead of like a general sanity where you're just permanently debuffed, it has a system where your characters get stressed out, and their level of the higher the stress level, the harder it is to successfully complete tasks, which can snowball very quickly. But it is possible to relieve stress. Is it possible to remove sanity, or increase sanity, however the numbers work in Call of Cthulhu, or once you're fucked, you're fucked?
I have never played it, but as I understand it, once you've lost a sanity point, it's gone.
Yeah, so I've played a game where you kind of get that, but you can regenerate from there.
Has anyone ever read the Laundry Files?
Never even heard of it, but I am intrigued.
Okay.
You're gonna have to explain.
Okay. It's Call of Cthulhu in the 2000s. Like they've taken that mythos and moved it into the modern day. And the Laundry is an organization, an undercover organization in the British government that is responsible for keeping people safe from eldritch horrors, or at the very least, keeping everyone from finding out about them. Because what they've discovered is that with the advent of the microprocessor, magic is actually accomplished through solving computations, and the more powerful computers got, the thinner the boundary between our worlds became, and the closer we got to what they call Case Nightmare Green, which is like the Elder Gods returning. So the Laundry is there to keep magic under control, and by that they means if anyone, like, they basically go after computer hackers that can accidentally discover a way to open portals through solving complex computational equations with their computers. And it's very dry, it's very British, and magic is accomplished through apps now. So like agents have iPhones that have magic apps on them. So it's pretty silly, but the way that they explain it is actually very, very clever. And there was a game based on this that's very similar to Call of Cthulhu, but they just moved those rules into the world of the Laundry. And one of the things that you can do is, like you said, you manage your sanity in a very similar way. And you use, but you have all this modern technology that can be used to combat threats that may not have been available in the 20s and 30s. So there's a neat twist on it that way, and of course the magic system being computational and technological is a neat twist as well. So basically, wizards are nerds and computer engineers in this world. Yeah.
I feel like Dan is.
Listen, they were always
subtly
nerds.
insinuating he's a wizard.
No. Well, when people tell me what I do, I say I'm a wizard. I make magic things happen because I don't understand any of it. No.
Yeah, it's the code is held together with duct tape, spit, and tears.
Yeah, basically. So yeah.
Yo,
So in order to cast a spell, you write a program in the Laundry, and then you execute it through a supercomputer.
This sounds like just normal computer science. What's the difference here?
Yeah. So there's a lot of reference to Mandelbrot, Planck, and Turing and all that stuff, and how they were the original wizards.
Again, how is this different from real life?
It's
Mostly that they actually work.
Yes. So yeah, if you haven't checked it out, check out at least the first book. It's called The Atrocity Archives, and it follows the main character Bob, who's a beleaguered low-level agent in the Laundry, and he's what they call a computational demonologist, which means he specializes in summonings and or countering summonings.
Carl Strauss?
I sell
Yes,
summoning
that's it.
and summoning accessories.
I'll tell you what,
Interesting.
I'll tell you
that
what.
demon ain't right.
that
None of
demon
it
ain't right.
All right, so Sadly, I have to head out right now. It's 11 o'clock and I got work early in the morning. But I'm just going to close off with thank you everyone that stopped by and backed us so far. We're at 5 backers, 251 out of 1,500. Help us spread the word, guys. Get out there and push this thing, and let's get this book made. Anything else anyone wants to say before we close off for the day?
Somebody have a bird. Do I hear a bird in the background? Who has a bird?
No, those are 3 little kittens that my daughter is fostering right now.
Oh yeah, that one.
They're trying to throw her across the room.
Is one of them is the bitey one.
What? I do have my cat meowing outside my door. She wants in, even though I just let her ass out.
Dude, let
Well,
me in. I'm a fairy.
All right,
Leo's
guys.
just,
Well, on that note, it's time to end. So thank you, guys. We will get back to this tomorrow, and we will continue pushing Hallowed Harvest Volume 2. So thank you, everyone that stopped by, and thank you guys for helping make this book happen.